I'm live. I'm Mrs. Arabella, the storyteller. Some of you may know me by a different name. I've just come to pay you a little visit this Saturday morning. It's National Winnie the Pooh Day, and I loved Winnie the Pooh when I was little. And all my bedtime stories, I'd say, can I have some Winnie the Pooh poems as well as a story? I absolutely loved having Winnie the Pooh poems and stories at bedtime, and they were so special to me, and even now they're still some of my very, very favourite of all time poems. So Winnie the Pooh was a lovely little bear, and he liked to eat honey, and he lived in a 100-acre wood with Tigger and Eeyore, and the stories were written by a fantastic person called A. Milne. So I'm going to show you something. This is actually for children and for older children and also for grown-ups today, because some grown-ups also were brought up with Winnie the Pooh books. So I have kept my books from when I was a tiny little girl. So here's my first one. Some of you may have this one. This was a storybook, and you can see Winnie the Pooh on the front and all his friends. Oh, and I've got another one. Let's have a little look. The House at Pooh Corner. Yeah, and this one's just called Winnie the Pooh. I've also got, was my all-time favourite, When We Were Very Young, and this was my poem book. Now, children, this is so old. The pages have gone yellow, and look, the pages are starting to come apart. So I am going to sellotape this later and look after my books. But I have looked after this since I was a little girl. So what I'd like to do is read you a few of my favourite Winnie the Pooh poems. Okay, the first one is called Happiness, and it's about John. Are you ready? It's only short. John had great big waterproof boots on. John had a great big waterproof hat. John had a great big waterproof Macintosh. And that, said John, was that. So it's only a short poem, that one. I like that. I'd like to get some Wellington boots like John. Now the next one, is all about somebody who didn't do what they were told to do. Little boy called James. Let's see what happens to him and his mummy. James Morrison, Weatherby George Dupree, took great care of his mother, though he was only 3. James said to his mother, "Mother," he said he, "you must never go down to the end of the road if you don't go down with me." James Morrison's mother put on a golden crown. James Morrison's mother drove to the end of the town. James Morrison's mother said to herself, said she, "I can get right down to the end of town and be back in time for tea." King John put up a notice. "Lost or stolen or strayed, James Morrison's mother seems to have been mislaid. Last seen wandering vaguely, quite of her own accord. She tried to get down to the end of the road of the town, 40 shillings reward." James Morrison's mother, commonly known as Jim, told his other relations not to go blaming him. James Said to his mother, "Mother," he said he, "you must never go down to the end of the town if you don't go down with me." James Morrison's mother hasn't been heard of since. King John said he was worried, so was the Queen and Prince. King John, somebody told me, said to a man he knew, "If people go down to the end of the town, well, what can anyone do?" J.M.M.W.G. Dupree took great care of his mother, though he was only 3. J. said to his mum, he said he, "You must never go down to the end of the town if you don't go down with me." And hello, Eleanor Rushbury. Thank you for watching, Ellie. I'm going to read my next favourite one. It's only tiny, but I used to go around saying this when I said this last week to a little girl. Jonathan Joe had a mouth like an O and a wheelbarrow full of surprises. If you asked for a bat or something like that, he got it whatever the size is. If you're wanting a ball, it's no trouble at all. Why, the more you ask for, the merrier. Like a hoop and a top and a watch that won't stop and some sweets and an Aberdeen terrier. Jonathan Joe had a mouth like an O, but that is what makes him so funny. If you give him a smile only once in a while, then he'll never expect any money. And the last one I'm going to read you today, I know, Ellie, I love them too, is rice pudding. Now, you may like some puddings and you may not like some puddings. Let's see what Mary Jane likes. What is the matter with Mary Jane? She's crying with all her might and pain, and she won't eat her dinner, rice pudding again. What is the matter with Mary Jane? What is the matter with Mary Jane? I've promised her dolls and a daisy chain and a book about animals all in vain. What is the matter with Mary Jane? What is the matter with Mary Jane? She's perfectly well and she hasn't a pain. But look at her now, she's beginning again. What is the matter with Mary Jane? What is the matter with Mary Jane? I've promised her sweets and a ride on the train. I've begged her to stop and explain. What is the matter with Mary Jane? What is the matter with Mary Jane? She's perfectly well and she hasn't a pain. And it's lovely rice dinner for pudding again. What is the matter with Mary Jane? Maybe she doesn't like rice pudding. Right. This little book has stayed with me for years. And children, you can look after your books until you are big and old like Mrs. Arabella the storyteller. So thank you for listening. Any parents watching today, all of Mrs. Arabella's Storyteller's videos are now on YouTube. So if you go over to YouTube and you just look up Mrs. Arabella, you will find 4 or 5 videos. A new one went on yesterday. It was the 3 little pigs, little story videos. And that's it. So have an absolutely lovely day and happy Saturday. Bye-bye.